And now, in order to practice all the information you just received and see how it would apply, we're gonna do a scenario together. Nick's gonna come up here and he's gonna help us walk through this. So, scenario, a member of your group is irritated by the amount of time another member speaks during group discussions. Without saying anything directly, the first group member makes his or her feelings known through attitude and actions. The other group member does tend to dominate the conversation. How do you respond to the growing tension in your group? So the first things we had talked about was to acknowledge the mess, to walk towards the mess and acknowledge the mess. Now, in this situation, the mess is coming to you. You don't need to walk into it. It's coming right to you. And that's going to be often the case. The next one was categorize the mess. Is it sin, relational, or life? In this case, it's relational, right? It's two different perspectives, two different personalities, and it's causing tension in your group. So with the relational mess, we just have to be super careful that it doesn't turn into a sin mess. And the way it goes from relational mess to sin mess is that you allow a group member to gossip to you about another group member. Then we enter into a totally different category and our posture needs to be different. Anything to add to that?
No.
Okay. It's one thing for someone to bring a situation up to you about something that's happening in group, and it's something else for them to simply share their feelings about someone in your group. Okay, the next one would be asking good questions. And I think one of the questions that you need to ask here is, have you talked to that group member, right? So someone's coming to you, they're upset about something, you're seeing that frustration in dinner group. The first thing is, have you talked to the person you are upset with? It is not always your responsibility to fix it. You can call them to do it. It is actually their responsibility to go to that person and share why they are upset.
Yeah, I think it's important too. This happened in a scenario in my group recently, and I had known the other person quite well and knew that they had a story behind them that was kind of leading to them contributing as much as they did. A lot of it was just because they just didn't have the friend relationships. Usually what you find in these situations where people dominate the conversation is they have no one in their life who listens to them. And so one of the things that's really helpful sometimes when you have people who get annoyed is to encourage them in that process of reaching out to the other individual to go and hear their story. One of my favorite quotes from Fred Rogers is that there's no one that you couldn't learn to love once you've heard their story. And I think the same situation is true here, where you get to hear their story, you kind of understand them a little bit more. There's more grace that comes into that as well. And we're not trying to encourage this dominate the conversation. We're going to handle that one as well here in this too. But if you'd like to continue.
Yes, so if there is, right, so obviously there is a group member that dominates the conversation. If you yourself have noticed that as a leader, it is really important for you to go and speak to that person and be able to ask those questions of, hey, like, you know, have you noticed this? Or is there a reason why? Or chances are they probably don't even realize that they're sharing as much as they are. And more often than not, they want to correct it. They want to be someone that shares when it's valuable and necessary and listens when it's necessary.
Often that oversharing comes out of a lack of being valued in other areas of their life, and they finally find an area where they feel valued, and so they just want to share and they want to share and they want to share. And so there's a couple of different things that you can do to help in that situation. Sometimes you can help give them boundaries if they need that, to where you can say, hey, let one or two other people jump in before, or take time to listen to others. If they're still breaking that boundary, sometimes it gets to the point where you just give them a nod when you are ready for them to contribute to the conversation, and you'd be surprised at how often they love that, because they're just not used to knowing when it's appropriate, and it's a learning opportunity for them as well. I think the other thing that's really important in this situation that we often forget, and sometimes we allow the domination to continue on, is because we're like, oh, well, we're trying to love this person as best as possible. And in doing that, we're sacrificing the rest of the group. And so it's really important in your groups to make sure that you're not sacrificing everyone for one person, but that sometimes, as difficult as it is to be, you have to address the issue with the one in order to love all.
For sure. The next one was talk to the right people. In this relational mess, this isn't something that you necessarily have to bring to your pastor or to Nick or, but you have a coach. You have someone that if you want to talk through this, you can. If you want to get their opinion, if you want them to be praying for you before you head into that conversation, that's huge. Our coaches love to partner with you and walk through these things with you. So.
And leaving names out of it is always helpful. We shared that in the last session, but one of the things that I really appreciate when you guys share with me difficult things are going in your group, like she said, I get to pray for it, but then I'm able to share an unbiased opinion. And the other thing we find in common is that it is rare that it's a new scenario that we haven't experienced before. A lot of these have very similar. That's why we were able to boil it down to 3 messes. It's just because when we look back at the past 10 years of us leading group, they kind of just boil down into these 3.
For sure. The next one was communicate a biblical goal. And that's just you and the person kind of coming together and figuring out the next steps. And then the next one was commit to the process. And this just means that as a dinner group leader, you don't have this one conversation and you're done, but that you follow up, that you help create that sense of accountability. This just means that you keep showing up. And the last one is having communicate the right perspective. And this is basically knowing that that from all this, good can come. That God can use it and you can talk to someone about their attitude and actions or about how much they're sharing, and it could be good. In fact, these 2 group members might find out that they have more in common than they thought.
Yeah.
And they might grow a different kind of relationship because they were able to be honest with each other. So all this can turn to good.
Yeah. And I just hope this is encouragement to you. Again, in this process, remember, you don't have to own the changes that need to occur. You are just there to encourage the process. Your group is there to support it. And the church, your coaches are here to partner with you. So when messes occur, make sure that we're able to partner with you. Make sure that the group's able to support and that you're able to encourage the individuals that when you run into this. Take care.